Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tanner's Favorite Things. I am Tanner Knight, and today we have a video about this. And this is not a typical cabinet that you'll find on this channel. Usually, if we're talking about a cabinet, I'm talking about a 2x12 or maybe a 4x12 cabinet, such as you see behind me here. There are single 1x12 cabinets and 1x10-inch speaker cabinets. And you know, they each have a place in kind of sound creation and what you're going for with your sound. But in this cabinet, I kind of stumbled across something that I want to share that I think is really special. And this is a custom cabinet. And this is the grill right here. It says custom right here on the bottom. I removed the grill just because that's the only way to get to the speaker. There are no screws on the back of this thing. We have a horn with 6 screws here, and then just a regular 12-inch speaker driver with 4 screws. This cabinet is ported on the bottom, 2 ports, but beyond that, there are no other ports or holes on this thing. It's what you see here. So this particular cabinet is called the Kustom KPC12. Pretty standard as far as naming goes. It's a single 12-inch driver, as I mentioned. And this is really meant for a PA system as far as I can tell. I don't know this model or this range of custom cabinets too well, but based on the configuration of a 12-inch driver plus a higher range horn or mid-range to high range horn, this is typically what you'll find in a PA cabinet so that you can really get a wide range of frequencies projected as far as possible. But I just happened to plug this thing into a couple different guitar amplifiers, and it sounds freaking awesome. It sounds great, and I hope that you agree with that, but if not, I really welcome any kind of critique that you have. So let me know what you think, but we're gonna play this specific speaker and cabinet through a few different amps and just get a couple different tonal samples, and maybe this becomes a viable option for somebody who happens to come across one of these cabinets or a similar style cabinet and doesn't really have $400 or $500 to throw at like an orange PPC 2x12 or a EVH 2x12. So this is a viable option. I believe that it is a 4 ohm load. That's where things get a little dicey. I'll have to get out the voltmeter to see exactly what kind of load we're dealing with here. But this is an 8 ohm speaker, and I believe it's an 8 ohm driver, so it's probably a 4 ohm load totally wired in serial. But that's a little bit of a mystery. I'm taking a little bit of a risk by assuming that the ohms are going to be greater than the amp that I plug it into. So we will try to match as best we can, but that's what we're dealing with. So why do I have this thing? I bought this speaker cabinet hoping that it would be piece number 1 of a PA system. And I got it, and it never sounded good. And the reason for that is because it was loaded with this. And I don't know if you're familiar with what this is, but this is a 12-inch Rockford Fosgate punch subwoofer. And it's not the beefiest subwoofer that they make. Obviously, they make bigger magnets, larger casings for their speakers, but this is a pretty respectable 12-inch subwoofer. Typically, I think you'd find this in the back of a vehicle or like on a marine vessel on a boat or some other kind of mobile application, but I'll bet you can find these spec'd in home subwoofer speaker systems as well. But that was loaded in there. Obviously, it's not going to sound good. It sounded terrible. I'm not even going to show you what it sounded like because I already took it out. But I decided to take the opportunity to load it up with a Peavey Scorpion, which you can tell by this unique kind of diamond design. That's very typical of the Peavey Scorpion speaker. And I happen to have about 4 or 5 of these lying around. So I figured, why not throw one in there and see what it sounds like? And I can tell you, this is the best a Peavey Scorpion speaker has sounded in any cabinet that I've ever heard. I've had a Peavey 4x12 loaded with Scorpions, a single 1x12 combo that is kind of buried behind this, but the Peavey Encore 65, that's similar in size and layout, but the speaker sounds so much better in this application than the combo. And any other 2x12, you name it, this speaker has not ever sounded as good as it sounds right here. And I've tested it with a few different amps, so it's not just the amp, but let's go ahead and see exactly what it sounds like. All right, so I've decided to start this demo with this Peavey ST-LTD guitar. This is an HSS setup, humbucker, single coil, and I really liked how this guitar sounded with a couple different amps, so I wanted to start with it and show off the humbucker and the single coil action. So what is this speaker? The Scorpion, the Peavey Scorpion, is a 200 watt aluminum coiled, I think it's a cast aluminum coiled speaker, and it's a really high quality product, but it sometimes gets a bad rap for sounding kind of flubby, a little bass heavy, just not all of that well EQ'd. But I gotta say, it sounds great in this application. Let's hear this Peavey ST-LTD, just a clean in the humbucker. Sounds like this. Capturing the sound today, I have count them, two microphones, one condenser microphone right here, which is the Audio-Technica AT4033 SE, and on the cone I have a dynamic microphone, the EV, the Electro Voice PL88 dynamic microphone, and it's pretty close up on the cone, just off center a little bit. So I'm going to mix the two of these microphones so that we can get a good idea of what the cone and the horn is producing. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of the overall cabinet, because it's not just our friendly 12-inch driver in the mix, and that changes the sound. It makes it different. So let's go ahead and hear the single coils now in the clean. Oh, by the way, the amplifier that we're plugging into first is the Quilter 101 Reverb. This is the Mini-Reverb that has 100 watts of juice when you got it cranked. I don't have it cranked right now. The master is kind of somewhere in the middle, around 25 watts, with the gain set to around 70%. And it's just a really great clean sound. We'll bump the gain here in a second and get a little more rowdy, but this is just straight up cleans out of the Quilter solid state amp, and it is glorious. So just beautiful cleans. It's round, it's punchy, everything that I want in a clean tone being produced by a clean amp, that's it. So that's the Quilter with the clean tones in the humbucker and the single coil. Sounds really stratty in that single coil position, but let's go and hear a little more gain with the humbucker on this amplifier. So we've switched to a tube amplifier, and unfortunately it's being hidden by this cabinet right now, but I do have my Vox AC10C 10-inch combo amplifier plugged into this guy. So when it plugs in to an external cabinet on that AC10C, it takes the 10-inch creamback out of the circuit altogether and just puts the full 10 watts into this cabinet. So there's no funny business going on with the combo behind the amp. This is just straight amp into this cabinet, and it sounds like this. So this does have a little reverb on board, the AC10C1. So you're hearing that reverb in here. Maybe adjust that a little bit. Looks like it was right on the cone, but the waveform still looks pretty similar. So going from 10 watts of tube power to whatever the solid state amp was, you can still tell that 10 watts produces a ton of sound, and we don't even have the gain cranked. The gain is right around 40% right now, with our master at 75%. So it's still plenty loud, but it sounds really good. It sounds better than with the creamback 10-inch speaker on the combo, that's for sure. Okay, let's add a little more gain into the AC10C1. All right, I kept the volume right at 75%, but I put the gain almost to 80%, right around the same. So here's what this sounds like. It is making that speaker cone dance, and I do think that the Scorpion does have a lot to do with this sound, and maybe I'll do another video with like a V30 or some other 12-inch driver in here, but just the sweetness of the tone really makes me love this combination. All right, so let's hear another guitar and another amplifier. By the way, this was my 1999 Fender Deluxe Stratocaster with the noiseless pickups. So let's go ahead and switch things up and hear a different set of tones. All right, so I finally found a configuration that I'm not crazy about. I plugged the Marshall Plexi 1987X 50-watt tube amp into this cabinet, and it sounds terrible. I don't know, I didn't expect this one to be the one that sounded bad, but it's too bassy, it's breaking up really, really early. So let's hear it and judge for yourself. not unusable, but it's kind of flubby, a little fuzzy, kind of what you would expect out of this Peavey Scorpion speaker from the get-go. But it just didn't act like that with the Vox and the Quilter, so I'm a little concerned by that. But let's go ahead and move over to the 5150 and see if 120 watts makes a difference. If it's just the amp, just the quality. I do know that this is a dark amp, this Marshall Plexi 1987X. So let's try the 5150 and see if we can brighten up the sound. Okay, I feel a little bit better about this 5150 plugged into this cabinet. I played it just a little bit to get a little tonal sample, but it sounds a lot brighter, a lot more full, and not on the verge of breakup in the rhythm channel. So I do have the bright switch engaged, which brightens up the rhythm channel, but it shouldn't push it past the point of breakup. So let's go ahead and hear what we've got. It's already starting to break up a little bit, but it's a lot cleaner and a lot bigger of an amp. This is 120 watts, and we're right around 4 on that rhythm pre-gain, and then 3 on the post-gain. So let's hear this a little bit more. Pretty respectable sound. Again, it's a little close to breakup for my purposes on a clean channel, but I'll bet I could dial that in a little bit better. Just for fun's sake, let's go to the lead channel on the Peavey 5150 and see how this thing handles some serious crunch. And just note, this is a 200 watt RMS speaker, so it should be able to handle this load just fine, but typically you wouldn't want to put a 120 watt amp into a single 12-inch driver, even if it did have the horn. You just don't know how much power these things have until you blow a speaker. So keep that in mind, and let's hear what this thing sounds like in the lead channel. Sounds pretty good. I think the 5150, I don't know, it just becomes live once again. And I don't know why the Marshall doesn't sound all that great, but let's hear one more guitar and one more amp. We have the orange Rocker 30, and I'll use my Ibanez S Classic 420. So let's go ahead and hear that. All right, our last guitar and amplifier combination. This is an Ibanez S Classic SC420. I forgot the SC earlier, but it is the SC420. And it is a dual humbucker guitar, no coil splits, no nothing like that. Just straight up humbucker rawness, and it sounds awesome. It's actually one of my favorite clean guitars, which is surprising. Typically, I gravitate towards the Stratocaster or Telecaster when it comes to single coil-esque cleans, and this doesn't do single coil sounds, obviously, but it does really, really nice, clean humbucking sounds. Really nice. Nice cleans and a well-matched pair with this Orange Rocker 30. Again, a tube amp, but we do have 30 watts, and it's not pushing that hard. I guess it's at about 45% on the natural volume. We'll kick in the dirty channel here in a second, but just wanted to hear the clean channel. And it sounds great. Let's go ahead and add some dirt. So for the purposes of this video, I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible and just add the gain from the actual amplifier instead of kicking on not a Klon pedal or a Tube Screamer or a DS1 to get my distortion. So I just wanted to make that clear that we're going straight into the amplifier, not going through a pedal board, and all of the gain from these amplifiers is coming from the actual amps. So here we go, the dirty channel on the Orange Rocker 30. Oh yeah, baby, that sounds good. That thing makes me want to play forever. This is my favorite combination yet, the Orange Rocker 30 with this 1x12 plus horn cabinet. So I don't know, I might keep this around. I was thinking about selling this cabinet, but I might keep it around and use it for recording purposes because I think that it really does produce a unique guitar sound that you're not going to get from a 2x12 or a 4x12 or a single 1x12 open back combo. I don't have a closed back single 12 combo, so this is kind of it as far as that goes. And it has the added dimension of this speaker here, which is a speaker. It's just a horn-shaped speaker. So I may sell this. I've got a few of these speakers, and I think I could probably recreate this again if I needed to. So if you really love the sound of this cabinet and you want to purchase it from me right now today, if it's still available, let's talk. Message me in the comments below. Otherwise, this is just kind of an experiment, something that I happened to stumble upon that I was really, really happy with, and I thought I'd share it with y'all. So let me know what you think. If you think you could make this sound even better, let me know, and I'll try it, whether it's a mic setup or configuration or what. But again, we do have the EVPL88 dynamic microphone, the Audio-Technica AT4033 SE as our condenser mic up front. So that's what's capturing the sound. And if you have any questions, let me know. If you like this content, always like and subscribe. That's the best way to tell me that you like what I'm doing and to keep doing it. Let me know what you think, and I will see you on the next one.